We will not speculate on the assailant's motives or the circumstances that led to yesterday's events. We'd rather refer those questions to CID, as this is an ongoing investigation. When you ask your questions, we ask that you give your name and affiliation and speak up so that we can hear you and you can hear us. Now, I'd like to introduce the Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Dan Driscoll. His name is spelled D-A-N, last name Driscoll, D-R-I-S-C-O-L-L, and Brigadier General John Lubis, the Commanding General of the 3rd Infantry Division. Spelling is J-O-H-N, Lubis, L-U-B-A-S. And we will have CID representation also available. It's the Deputy Director of the Criminal Investigation Division, Peter Tolentino, P-E-T-E-R, T-O-L-E-B-T-I-N-O, and Special Agent in Charge Ryan O'Connor, R-Y-A-N-O apostrophe C-O-N-N-O-R. They will be ready to speak to you with regarding the shooting that occurred here yesterday at Fort Stewart. I'd like to now pause and I'll turn it.
Thank you all for being here today. I am Dan Driscoll, Secretary of the United States Army. We had two main goals today. It was to come out and first off to support the victims and their families and the community that experienced the shooting tragedy yesterday. And the second one was to recognize the heroism, the courage, and the selfless service of 6 soldiers who put themselves in harm's way yesterday to take care of their fellow soldiers. I want to start off by saying we're standing at the brigade headquarters of the unit that had the shooting yesterday. And this morning, if you were here, what you would have seen is you would have seen a lot of soldiers out doing physical training and PT. That is incredibly important to us because we are highlighting the resilience of the American soldier. We are showing their strength and their courage under fire. They are going to spend the remainder of the day able to meet with counselors, but also getting back to their jobs, serving the American people. We spent this morning, General Lubis and I, visiting some of our soldiers who are in the hospital and meeting with their families. We talked to doctors, and one of the things that I can say unequivocally is that the fast action of these soldiers under stress and under trauma and under fire absolutely saved lives from being lost. On behalf of President Trump, Vice President Vance, Secretary Hegseth, they wanted me to tell these soldiers, their family, and this community that the entire federal government stands by and stands ready to care for these soldiers and their family. One of the more important things we were able to do this morning, though, is to recognize the heroism of these 6 soldiers. One of the soldiers tackled the person, so just think about this. They were unarmed and ran at and tackled an armed person who they knew was actively shooting their buddies, their colleagues, their fellow soldiers. Another soldier jumped on top of the person to subdue them until federal law enforcement was able to arrive. The other soldiers, immediately using their training that they had developed over years and years, started to take care of mass casualties. The hospital they took them to in March had just run a mass casualty exercise for a moment just like this. The Army does not want these moments to happen, but it stands ready when necessary to act and care for those when it does. The Army this year is 250 years old. That is 1 year older than this nation itself. These American soldiers highlight exactly what the Army has meant to this country. It has been there in some of the most traumatic moments of this nation's history, and it has been resilient, stood strong, and acted on behalf of American citizens. I just want to thank this community. It is absolutely unbelievable to me the speed with which law enforcement officers showed up, paramedics showed up. We had so many people showing up within the first hour that we actually had to stage some of them away. We are so grateful for this community and all that it does for our soldiers and their families. The investigation is ongoing. I imagine a lot of the questions we'll take will be related to that. We will not be able to answer some of those questions, but we are going to do a deep, hard investigation. The findings will be transparent. They will be released to the American public. We commit to you that anything we discover during the investigation that can make this base and other bases like it safer, we will act on as quickly as possible. Now I'm happy to take questions. Standing beside me, I have General Lubis, the Division Commander, and Special Agent O'Connor from Criminal Investigation Division. So let's kick off with some questions.
Mr. Secretary, Robin Thompson.
Hey, Robin.
Hi. Will there be any efforts by the DOD to harden the entrances to installations to look for things like personal weapons coming in and out of base?
We are constantly looking at our security protocols on all of our bases, both in CONUS and around the world. We absolutely will want to learn from this investigation. We do not want something like this to ever happen again on an Army base. And so if there are things we can do to improve safety, we will take those steps. But right now, we're really early in the investigation.
Mr. Secretary.
Yeah.
Faith Blueberry with
Hey,
ABC
Faith.
News. Thanks for being here. How will the suspect get a gun, his personal gun, past security to the base and to his workplace?
Faith, as I just remarked to your colleague, we are still early in the investigation. The shooting happened yesterday. I can have him come up and tell you what we've learned so far. Our commitment is what we learn will be disclosed. It will be transparent. Justice will be brought on behalf of these victims and the community that was harmed. You want to step in?
Hey, good morning. As the Secretary mentioned, this is still an active investigation. We are still processing the scene with all the resources and capabilities that the Army's Criminal Investigation Division has to offer, which is immense. We have surged people from this entire region. In light of the fact that we're still processing, I'm going to have to defer that question for now.
Is it normal to have a personal gun on base suit?
No, that would be a violation.
And next question.
Mr. Secretary, Ryan Yoder from CNN.
Hey, Ryan.
How you doing? You got a chance to meet with the families, and obviously we won't have that chance. You got a chance to meet and talk to them. You seem very proud of how everyone reacted. Can you tell us what that was like being in the families? What state are they in right now? Share with the public who's concerned about the approaches. Obviously, things are in charge.
Ryan, it was heartbreaking sitting in there and seeing their soldier, their daughter sitting behind them, struggling. Our hearts broke with them. We tried to hug them. We tried to convey from the President and the Vice President and the Secretary of Defense that our entire nation mourns with them. We stand behind them. It has been only a couple of hours for them. I think they are still processing through it. But what we wanted to convey is we will be here with them every single step of the way. The United States Army is committing every resource we need to get these soldiers back into their formations as quickly as we possibly can. And then one of the things that we had said at the meeting earlier with the soldiers from this unit is, General Lucas and I were reflecting on this in the car ride. These kind of moments, especially if you've deployed, you've gotten to see them more frequently. The trauma from them often doesn't hit for weeks or months on it. Like it doesn't come as quickly as you might think. And so what we try to encourage for all of our soldiers is to speak up, lean on each other, lean on your leadership, and we will provide the resources, the care, and the love that they need to recover.
General, can you tell us real quick just about what it was like to meet those families as well?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. It's heartbreaking. It's painful to see them struggling with a wounded family member. They expressed that they were incredibly proud of their soldier, as we are, and they asked for prayer. So we appreciate all the prayers that have been sent our way, and we would ask you to keep them coming. Thank you.
General Lucas, Streamer with NBC News.
Yes, Scott Evans with CBS News here. Quick question for you. Can you describe the condition of those who are injured? I know there might have been some updates. I know generally you said yesterday they're expected to be okay, but just nature of the injuries, like.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Of the 5 wounded soldiers, 3 were released yesterday, which is amazing considering the circumstances and the ranges at which they were engaged. One soldier remains as an inpatient here at Wynn Army, right here on Fort Stewart. She's doing very well, in high spirits. Of course, she's got a little bit of a road to recovery. We're hopeful she may be released as early as this weekend, but that will just depend on how things heal up over the next couple days. And we have one soldier that remains at Savannah Memorial Community Hospital, who I visited with the secretary this morning. She's got a little bit longer road to recovery. The doctors are very positive, but I think it's going to take her a bit longer to recover, but they're very hopeful she's going to make a complete recovery.
General Lucas, this is Priya Schrader with NBC News. I know you guys are prepared for scenarios like this when you go to war zones or on combat deployments, but have you gotten an opportunity to speak to some of the soldiers in this unit about how they're processing that this attack occurred from one of their own, and how are you processing that as a leader?
Yeah, I think we train for this on the battlefield, and it's a different situation when it happens on an installation with one of your own. So I think over the upcoming days and weeks, as the secretary said, people are going to process this and work through this at different rates, and we know we've got to keep a very close eye on them. We've got to wrap our arms around them. We've got a great community here, a great response. As you saw from all the folks the secretary recognized this morning, the support from the local community, just amazing. So we feel that this demonstrates that we trained internally for the worst case scenario, and our doctors and our medics and our soldiers responded exactly as we trained them to do. And now our job is to make sure that we care for them as they work through this. Thank you.
And I just want to recognize behind me to the right, these are the 6 soldiers we were able to recognize today. And they, I mean this as sincerely as humanly possible. I and the administration, President Trump, could not be more proud of them. They are everything that is good about this nation. They are the best among us in our country. They are the best among us in the Army. They acted in a way that I think all of us hope we would under fire, but they did. And so we are just so incredibly proud of them. We are so grateful for them. And one of the things we told them and their colleagues is that we will stand with them as long as we need to get them back where they need to be.
Russ, behind the AP, can you all give us a sense going forward what's going to happen next for the criminal justice process goes? Has the suspect been actually charged yet? If so, what charges is he facing? The military system works like this.
It does.
Suspect is currently in custody, and we are working through the Military Uniform Code of Military Justice process at this time.
Is he going to be transferred to a military detention facility?
That is likely.
Do you know when or which one?
No.
You also talked about processing the scene. Can you tell us what's going on today with processing the scene? I imagine you're going to be showcasing pictures. Can you just describe that?
Certainly a tragic scene where our soldiers train, but the processing of a scene would normally encompass digital evidence, forensic evidence, trace evidence, all of those things which our team is currently doing.
And was this captured on video since it was inside the facility?
I can't comment on that at this moment.
Just a point of clarification from yesterday, we were told chain of command was not aware of the arrest for the DUI off base. Can you explain if you had been aware of what the procedure would have been? Would he have been disciplined? Would he have been taken out?
Because we are one day into the investigation, we can't reveal those kinds of things. I think what we try not to do is speculate or do hypotheticals, and so each soldier, each instance, we take very seriously. Something like a DUI or another issue that could occur in the community, that impacts how we treat that soldier in our formations. We want holistically powerful and controlled and competent soldiers, and so we are constantly reflecting on our mechanisms and procedures as an Army so that we're able to capture that information and hold soldiers accountable.
Are they usually disciplined after an arrest?
It varies based off the case. I think, any other questions?
We got time maybe for one more question.
Yeah.
Jill Kovac from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. General, could you speak at all, just to give some insight at all, on acts of bravery that you've heard about in this episode?
Yeah, sure. I think As the Secretary mentioned, we have 6 incredible soldiers behind us, but this is just representative of the larger formation. Once the shooter was identified and a threat was identified, we had soldiers that immediately raced and tackled that soldier, wrestled the gun away, subdued him. A second non-commissioned officer jumped on top to further restrain him until the police could arrive. And then simultaneously, no one hesitated. Most of these soldiers behind me and others in the crowd immediately started applying first aid and, most importantly, stopped the bleeding. And when we spoke to the surgeons in the hospital, it was clear that the actions they took, primarily stopping that bleeding before they were loaded up into ambulances and quickly evac'd to Win Army Medical, certainly saved their lives.
Are they back to work today?
I'm sorry, who
Are
back
they
to work?
back to work, or are they taking some time off?
Well, today is a day that we focused on bringing the brigade and the unit together so they could support one another, so we could, of course, get right back at it, but it's also a day where we're going to focus on ensuring that they're getting the support they need.
General
Thank you.
Lewis, can you give us a general sense of how long this all happened from that first shot fired to when your brave soldiers were able to tackle the gunman?
I can. It was an incredibly fast response, and I do attribute this to the training that this installation has done and the teams here have done. So at approximately 10:56, the incident was reported, and that went out over sort of an all-calls net. That triggered a lot of responses. That triggered our installation emergency medical services, our police, our fire, our emergency medical services to respond, but it's also monitored by the local community, and then we requested assistance. At 11:04, we initial lockdown of the installation, so that is pretty quick. That wasn't me, that was the director of DES and the garrison commanders that immediately made that right call and that decision. At about 11:09, emergency personnel were dispatched to treat the wounded. At 11:35, the shooter was apprehended by the soldiers and the law enforcement, several behind us and several in the crowd that we recognized earlier. So really what that means, we had about 13 minutes after that first report, we already had people, ambulances, fire, fish and game, military police responded and were on the scene. And then we had local support from the amazing community here. We had the first SWAT team arrive from off post within 20 minutes on site, which is truly incredible. So we're incredibly grateful for the support from the community. I'm incredible for our leadership that trained our soldiers to react this way. And then, as the Secretary said, we're incredibly proud of the soldiers themselves. Thank you.
Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. Thank you guys for coming. We are going to stand by. I think we have some time that we can talk to the soldiers, but unfortunately, that's the time that we'll have with the Secretary and with General Lewis.
Thank you for coming. We're grateful for all of you.
Okay, we're going to take a quick pause as we transition to our soldiers.
Faith.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. The time now, 9:46. Thank you for staying with us this morning. So that press conference in Fort Stewart just wrapped up, giving us updates on that active shooter situation that took place on the base. So those soldiers that you see there, we actually learned during this press conference, those are the soldiers that helped subdue the suspected shooter, which we have confirmed that it was a soldier on the base. And so those soldiers back there were able to subdue the suspected gunman, and the gunman is in custody. We also learned got an update and learned the conditions of the 5 soldiers that were shot. So 3 have been released from the hospital. 1 is recovering at the base, and another is recovering at a nearby hospital. So we are awaiting to possibly hear from those soldiers that stepped in to detain the suspected gunman, who's also a soldier. So just to recap on what we have so far, again, 3 soldiers have been released from the hospital, 1 recovering on base, and another recovering at the hospital. In total, 5 soldiers were shot yesterday. And as you see there, soldiers there who helped protect so many folks as they were able to subdue the suspected gunman. yesterday. All right, so here, and I just want to refresh this page, make sure. All right. Okay, so we're about to actually hear from some of the soldiers, again, that subdued the gunmen. Let's take a listen in.
Said live yesterday. So I'm going to start with Colonel Sanford. He's going to introduce himself, and we'll go down the line.
If you could all step to the center podium, because that's where all the mics are concentrated, that's the only way we can hear you.
And then we'll start with you.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mike Sanford. I'm the battalion commander for 703rd Brigade Support Battalion.
I'm Staff Sergeant Taylor. I'm the career counselor for 703rd Brigade Support Battalion.
I'm First Sergeant Joshua Arnold. I'm the First Sergeant for Bravo Company, 703rd.
And that's a unit within the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team. And we're going to go ahead and open up for questions.
So kind of take us through, I don't know which of you want to answer this first, but kind of take us through what you first heard and what you first did yesterday.
First, sir?
We heard what sounded like gunshots. We immediately had medical services, combat medics, myself and Sergeant Taylor respond. We rendered aid to those individuals, and shortly after EMS arrived and continued their jobs.
What went through your head when you realized that there was an actual shooting happening in your workplace?
Just conduct training. It's our training that kicked in, mine kicked in, and you just go to work.
Have you processed what's happened to you?
Yep, of course, friends were shot. Bad things happened, and I'm going to continue to take care of my soldiers, and I'm going to continue to move forward.
How difficult was it for y'all to render aid to your brothers and sisters that were shot by another one of your brothers? How much more difficult was that?
You don't really kind of process that at that moment. You just take care of the people that you see are injured.
When you heard the gunshots, did you immediately think this is bad, or were you thinking from somebody else, like the fireman who's very close by? What did you sense this is bad?
Really didn't process that it was a gunshot at first, and then it took a moment to kick in that was a gunshot. That was a gunshot, and I started yelling through the hallways. There was a gunshot.
Please, I'll share if you don't mind. Each of you too. I would like you to jump in. Just, we're trying to get a sense for what this sounded like, what this felt like. When you heard the shots for the first time, you give me your, first of all, gut reactions, and I know you got to train to react. So walk us through that process for us.
So I wasn't actually on the scene. I got a call from my Command Sergeant Major Alvarado. I was here at the headquarters, and I immediately ran over to the COP, to the building where my companies work. What I can describe to you when I got on the scene, I saw individuals doing triage, triaging patients and things like that. As a commander of this unit, I'm incredibly proud to see everybody come together. I talk about 3 things every single day when I'm in front of the formation: teamwork, winning, and trust. The teamwork that I saw yesterday made me proud as a commander. I saw Staff Sergeant Taylor, who's my retention NCO, totally different job, but she immediately rendered aid. I saw First Sergeant Arnold running around, directing traffic, doing the things that he did. So for me as a commander, I'm very proud of these soldiers.
Commander, do you know the suspect?
Yes.
Were there any warning signs or any behavioral issues that you noticed?
None at this time.
Staff Sergeant Taylor, what made you jump into action?
So I was in my office, which was at the opposite end of the building, and I was just checking my email, and I heard First Sergeant Arnold yelling that there was a gunshot that went off. I didn't personally hear the gunshot, but I heard him yelling it, so I popped out to the hallway to see what was going on, and I heard him yelling about there being smoke, and I saw the smoke at the end of the hallway, and I noticed there was a soldier laying on the ground, so I immediately sprinted over to the soldier and started rendering aid. He had been shot, and so I was rendering aid to him while First Sergeant started calling for medics. So that was
Were you
about.
scared?
Not at that time. I believe you have adrenaline, and I previously was a combat medic for 7 years, and I've worked EMS for the county before, so I have been in these type of situations before, where I've had to render aid to someone with gunshot wounds. So I had a little bit of experience, I believe, helped get me through that situation.
Was it different knowing that it was Sergeant Radford, one of your guys' coworkers?
I think it's too soon in the situation to really process all of that. It's only been 1 day.
We're going to take maybe 1 or 2 more questions with that. We've got to move on.
Commander, you train these soldiers to prepare for battle, to fight enemies overseas, and here they are fighting the gunmen right here as they're training. How do you process that?
It's tough, but I'm just happy to know that the training that they got, they went into action, because really it's a battle drill, and they went into action and did what they need to do. So whether it's here or overseas, or if we're in combat, they did the right thing. But yes, it's tough, because you never want to have that happen as a commander. But like I said, I'm incredibly proud of them.
Okay.